Hi guys, hi Facebook family. Today I put together a very special Facebook for everyone covering really important topics for spring. I have been in 6 time zones in 2.5 weeks. I will tell you, Finland did not feel like spring. Hi, Dr. Bjorkman, if you're watching. Dr. Bjorkman took me to the frozen Baltic Sea where they chop a hole in the middle, and then for spring everyone jumps in for a refreshing cellular tonic. I didn't do that. That was not very much spring there in Finland. But I just flew in this morning from Fort Lauderdale, and it was very spring, so in the southern United States. So wherever you are joining me from, thank you. Today we're covering fleas, ticks, and allergies. Those are springtime issues. Some of you are a little bit more behind the season when it comes to spring, but spring is coming. So wherever you live, and if you have dogs that go outside, or if you have kitties that are indoor-outdoor kitties, and even sometimes if you have strictly indoor kitties, you can end up with external parasites that you're not looking for. So when it comes to the flea tick discussion that I have with all of my clients, the first thing I tell my clients is, parasites are attracted to the weakest of the species. Now, you have to take that with a little bit of common sense. What we do know about fleas and ticks is even when you have an infested house, it's fascinating because I have clients that have a dozen kitties or they do kitty rescue, and within a very small space, they have 1 or 2 cats that are totally loaded and infested, and some cats may only have 1 or 2 fleas. So it's very interesting. We know that nutritional status, skin pH, vitality, gut biome, we know that there's a lot of things that play into an animal's immune system response and their immunologic ability to address external parasites. So all that to say, we want to focus on keeping your dogs and cats as vibrantly healthy on the inside as possible, because that's going to make them less attractive and less hospitable to external parasites. So I can't stress enough how much diet plays in to your pet's immunologic response. That being said, the more fresh, living, whole, unadulterated foods that you feed your dogs or cats, the more healthy, species-appropriate nutrition that you are offering your dogs and cats is allowing them to not only absorb and process the nutrients they need to have a functional, healthy immune system, but those key specific benefits from fresh foods like phytonutrients, enzymes, antioxidants that are only found in unadulterated foods are at your dogs and cats' beck and call when they're eating a species-appropriate living food diet. Now, for those of you that can't feed an all-living food diet, you can add in some things that can certainly help bolster your pet's immune system. One thing that was very popular through the 70s, and every now and then I still have clients that come in and say, hey, I'm going to give brewer's yeast and garlic pills. I am not a big fan of brewer's yeast and garlic pills for a bunch of reasons. First of all, brewer's yeast is pretty allergenic. In fact, the top conditions I see as a doctor are cancer and allergies, and I see so many allergies. We're going to cover allergies in a few minutes. But I see so many allergies that I would never recommend intentionally feeding a supplement that could be quite allergenic. And brewer's yeast is very allergenic. Now, if you have a dog or cat that has no allergies, you might be able to skate by giving brewer's yeast, but then the question you should ask is, what's in brewer's yeast that actually has a functional response in repelling fleas and ticks? And believe it or not, it's all those B vitamins. Brewer's yeast is one of the very best sources of B vitamins. Now, for that reason, I like the concept of giving Bs, because those of you that are in the nutraceutical or supplement industry know that, unfortunately, the majority of B vitamins found in supplements or capsules or pills are all coming from China. Most of the B vitamins that you see in supplements are not necessarily healthfully sourced, and they're absolutely not made in the United States. So I'm not a big fan of synthetic B vitamins. However, I'm not a big fan of brewer's yeast because of the allergenic potential, and because so many dogs and cats have allergies. Brewer's yeast actually is like putting gas on a fire, especially if you've got yeasty pets. So yeasty pets, feeding them more yeast in terms of brewer's yeast is you're just going to really accelerate those red, itchy, stinky, inflamed paws and ears and other parts of their body that are fostering yeast. So instead, think about food sources that are very, very rich in the B vitamins, and that would be fresh, living, whole, unadulterated meats, which the good news is dogs and cats are carnivores and they were meant to consume meat. So even if you're feeding kibble, you just taking a chunk of kibble out and putting in a chunk of fresh, balanced, living, fresh foods that, of course, are meat-based would be a great way to get whole food, living B vitamins into your dogs or cats. Now, garlic. I'm also not a big fan of garlic supplements. And the big reason I'm not a fan of garlic supplements is that garlic is pretty cool. When you look at garlic, it's just sitting on the counter, it's not activated. The active medicinal properties have not been activated, which is why when you break off a clove of garlic, or even when you smell a bulb of garlic, It's not profoundly stinky. Garlic is made up of 2 inactive compounds within each clove, allicin and allinase. And allicin and allinase, when you cut, crush, or chop a clove of garlic, a chemical reaction occurs, and allicin, the active medicinal compound in garlic, is created. That chemical reaction that creates the medicinal compound in garlic lasts about 8 hours. So even though garlic, let's say, that has been chopped and processed may smell like garlic that you buy in the jar at the grocery store, that active medicinal magical component of garlic that's anti-cancer, anti-parasitic, that is antibacterial, antiviral, all those beautiful properties are gone. You end up with a kind of aromatic spice, but the medicinal components are really have been inactivated because this reaction occurs for a short time and then it's gone. So my suggestion, if you're interested in using whole foods to help fight parasites, is that you get a fresh clove of garlic and add it to your pet's food. Now, here's the issue with garlic. Some of you are saying, Dr. Becker, garlic is toxic to pets. I printed off the paper that in 2000, hematologic changes associated with administration of garlic extract in dogs. And what this paper proves is that if you are giving tremendous amounts of garlic, in fact, the paper says 5 grams per kilogram of dog. So that equates to about 12 cloves of garlic, 8 to 12 cloves of garlic for a 8 to 10 pound dog, which is a bulb. If you are giving a bulb of garlic to your Chihuahua, first of all, your Chihuahua is probably not going to eat it. That's common sense. But second of all, that's too much garlic, guys. But here's what's interesting. Even at super high levels of, in fact, unnaturally high level of garlic that dogs and cats would never eat, they still didn't develop any hemolytic anemia. So even at these super high levels, this toxic effect that can occur when you feed dogs way too much garlic actually wasn't occurring. So all that to say, you can give quite a bit of garlic to dogs and cats and not worry about hemolytic anemia. The common sense thing is to add it in medicinal quantities on a daily basis during flea and tick season. And my recommendation is about 1/4 teaspoon of freshly chopped garlic for every 15 pounds of dog. And for kitties, I do about 1/16 teaspoon, a teeny tiny pinch of freshly chopped garlic, and about 1/8 teaspoon for toy dogs. And you adding that into their food on a daily basis is 70 times less than any type of scary dose that tends to provide that beautiful chemical reaction that is anti-parasitic, anti-tick, anti-flea, anti-internal parasites, because that active compound is absorbed into your pet's skin and then into your pet's GI tract and actually ends up on your pet's skin, and it's very unpalatable for external parasites. So rather than using brewer's yeast and garlic pills, my suggestion is that you use the real thing, living whole fresh medicinal foods in the form of garlic. I'm going to touch on foods in just a few minutes when I talk about allergies, but the premise is the healthier you can create vibrant health in your dog and cat by using healthy foods, the less attractive they will be to external parasites. Now, all that to say, if you are stuck in Florida where you never have a really hard frost, the nice thing about Chicago here is from about end of November until sometimes end of February, we get some freezing temperatures. So that makes parasites not so common during the winter. If you live in the southern half of the United States, you guys are bombarded with parasites constantly. There are some situations where you cannot use natural products and not end up with a problem. And I have found that even to be true when I'm hiking in Chicago, that when I go deep into the woods, I have a pretty vibrantly healthy immune system, and so do my dogs, but we will come out with ticks crawling on us, not because we're toxic or sick, but because we were deep in the woods and there are thousands of ticks that are going to drop and fall onto us. So sometimes it's a matter of being at the wrong place at the wrong time. But all that to say, when we're looking at minimizing exposure to fleas and ticks on a regular basis, there are some common sense things you can do around the environment without using toxins. Now, some of you say, my gosh, I'm in Florida, I have been totally infested. The only way I'm capable of helping to reduce infestations of fleas in my house is using topical chemicals. Guys, sometimes you're left having to use chemicals, I get it. But if you are using chemicals, then I want you to think about doing some form of detox. I use milk thistle. I created a detox. In fact, I regularly recommend that if you're going to use chemicals of any kind, you use some type of detox. Use milk thistle. Use something after you're putting chemicals on your dog or cat's body to help their liver get rid of those chemicals. But the other thing you can do is, let's say your veterinarian is saying apply a spot on pesticide every month year round. Oftentimes you can get by every other month using pesticide natural. So one of the things that a lot of people will do is, if you are using a traditional pesticide collar, you could switch to an essential oil collar for your dog. So on a day-to-day basis around your backyard, if you're in a condo, you can put an essential oil collar on your dog for walks around your neighborhood. And then when you go deep in the woods for 3 or 4 days where you're camping and you're in a really hotbed of tick area, if you wanted to switch to something stronger at that time where the risk is higher, some veterinarians will tell you here's something stronger that you can use. But all that to say, if your risk is low, keep the chemicals very, very low. And if your risk is higher, then you need to be more diligent about what you're doing, especially when it comes to tick checks. On those days when your risk is low, then I'm going to show you how to make a really quick homemade around the house general flea and tick deterrent. Now, this brings me to my next point. Deterrents versus preventives. I'm going to talk about making a deterrent, an all natural deterrent that I'm going to show you how to do. It takes 2 seconds. And this deterrent will, instead of your dogs getting 60 ticks, they may get 10. Deterrents are all natural, and they're awesome because they don't cause cancer or seizures or liver toxicosis. Yay. Preventives you're getting from conventional veterinarians, and they are pesticides and toxic. Now, I'm not bashing them. Sometimes we have to use them. But preventives are strong chemicals with significant side effects. Preventives are hailed to prevent ticks and fleas, period. Deterrents reduce the likelihood of getting fleas and ticks, but they're not a guarantee. So I bring that up because when you guys are using natural substances, sometimes people say, oh my gosh, I used your flea and tick spray and my dog got a tick. Well guys, you have to remember that if you are in an endemic area, you should be checking yourself too, because you can get ticks. And in my opinion, believe it or not, if I had to choose between a flea infestation and getting a lot of ticks, I would pick the fleas. Fleas are gross and disgusting, but the worst case scenario from fleas really is maybe tapeworms. Ticks, guys, ticks harbor life-threatening infections, and ticks are scary. I mean, I'm much more petrified of ticks than I am of fleas. You need to be checking yourself for ticks if you're in that area, because ticks carry a whole host of diseases that can kill you and kill your dogs and cats. Cats, for whatever reason, are much more resistant. Way to go, kitties. But all that to say, you need to be doing something on a consistent basis to reduce the attraction of external parasites to your dogs or cats. So here is my dog recipe. 8 ounces of pure water, 4 ounces of apple cider vinegar. I like to use organic unfiltered apple cider vinegar. 10 drops of neem oil. Now, guys, neem oil, believe it or not, is it's not an essential oil. Neem oil is expeller pressed, kind of like olive oil is expeller pressed. That's why it's safe for kitties. I'm going to get to my kitty recipe in a minute. But neem oil is really, really nice because fleas and ticks hate it. And but it's really great for animals that are very sensitive to smells. So 10 drops neem oil, and then 10 drops of catnip oil, and I'll get to that more about that later. Catnip oil has been proven to be as effective as DEET, D-E-E-T, the mosquito and tick and spray that humans use with all of those toxic side effects. So the nice thing about this blend is that you can get a lot of those benefits without any of the toxicosis. If you want to add an extra 1-2 punch for dogs only, you can add 5 drops of either lemon oil, lemongrass oil, eucalyptus, or geranium. I use geranium oil a lot because I find it to be, in fact, I've used it in my natural flea and tick products from Mercola because I find it to be really, really effective. So if you have a dog that has a lot of potential for ticks, adding 5 drops of a 1-2 punch of one of those essential oils is a really nice benefit. So that's my recipe. So Maya has already put my 8 ounces of water in my spray bottle. I'm going to add, you're going to watch how not scientific I am. I'm going to add 4 ounces of apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar in and of itself, guys, is absolutely anti-parasitic. Fleas and ticks both do not like the smell of apple cider vinegar. I'm going to add 10 drops of neem oil. See how I measured that? and I'm going to add 10 drops of catnip oil. Catnip oil, a little bit harder to find, guys, because it's not a true essential oil. A little bit harder to find. You have to maybe buy it from your local health food store, or you can buy it online too. You can get organic catnip oil. And then you can add lemon oil, whatever. Eucalyptus has been proven to be as effective as DEET. Geranium, absolutely as effective as DEET. You can add if you're in a high endemic area, you can add your extra spray. Then you can give this spray a good shake, store it in your fridge, and this is what I do. So first of all, it smells fantastic. You can, if you have dogs, a lot of times just that spray sound, dogs are out on that shh. So if you have a dog that doesn't like to be mist, I find it quite beautiful. If you have a dog that's out on being misted, guys, just spray your hands and pet your dog. You know, you don't have to, especially around the face, you don't have to be spraying your dog. They can get freaked out. But I have this in the fridge, and when my dogs head out for the morning, I mist them in the morning, and then if we were going to go for a hike in the afternoon, I mist them again. This is a beautiful topical deterrent that will make your dog less hospitable to outdoor fleas and ticks when they're out and about. Now, the active ingredients, specifically those oils, are gone and off the body in, I would say, about 4 hours, so you may need to reapply several times throughout the day. But no big deal, all natural, side effect free. Don't spray it in their eyes, obviously. All right, kitty recipe, very similar. 8 ounces of pure water, 4 ounces of apple cider vinegar, preferably organic, 10 drops neem, and 10 drops of catnip oil. Notice there's no essential oils on the kitties because kitties are typically out on essential oils unless they're prepared in very specific ways. This particular blend, neither one of these oils are actually like truly essential in the sense that they're distillates, so we're safe. So for the kitties, we do the exact same thing. We add 10 drops of neem oil, 10 drops of catnip oil. Catnip oil is actually really great because it prevents against mosquitoes too, which is very nice. Kitties are not so prone to heartworm, but dogs are. So the catnip oil is actually a really nice mosquito deterrent as well. So 2 easy, simple, all-natural recipes that you can use. It makes your dogs and cats smell fantastic, and a really nice way to offer some daily protection as you go about trying to prevent fleas and ticks this spring and summer and fall. Those of you that have been through fleas and ticks know that fleas are okay with the heat. Ticks have a big boom in the spring, and then they have another grand hurrah in the fall. Ticks are tough little buggers. So ticks can attach even late into November and December here in Chicago. They come out early and they stay late, but there's a little bit of a lull in the heat of the summer. Fleas have a big party when it gets warm and hot. So these types of sprays you can use during both flea and tick season for the entire summer and feel comfortable because you're not in any way providing any type of chemical or pesticide. And again, it can be blended nicely. If you are forced into using pesticides, you can use this to help decrease your pesticide load to offset the amount of chemicals you have to use on dogs and cats, which is great. All right, some other common sense things, guys. If you do go hiking, if you spend a lot of time outdoors like I do a tick check on my dogs every night. As I mentioned, I'm not so freaked out about fleas. I don't want them, but I'm not so freaked out about fleas as I am ticks. You need to be tick checking every night during the season. So when you get home from work, if you've gone on a walkabout, yes, check yourself behind your ears, of course, but then you need to check your dogs around their eyes, around their ear base. You need to check between the toes, around the tail base. Using a flea and tick comb is awesome because it naturally exfoliates the dog's skin. You're getting rid of loose hair, but it does a great job of trapping any uglies that you've acquired on your walkabout. You may have seen recently on Facebook a really great suggestion of using a lint roller. If you fresh come in from an outdoor tick endemic area, using a basic lint roller on your dog. So if the ticks are on the top of their hair before they get down in to attach to their skin, if you can lint roller your dog, you can be kind of impressed with the number of ticks that are crawling that you can pick up with a quick lint roller. All that to say, the premise is check, check, check. Nothing takes the place of physically checking for ticks. Probably the biggest mistake I have seen on referrals, so dogs that are coming to me from other veterinarians, is clients come in and they say to me, I've had the Lyme vaccine. My dog's off the hook. No. Just because you get the Lyme vaccine doesn't mean that ticks won't attach to your dog. Your dog is just as susceptible with or without the Lyme vaccine. So you still have to be thinking about what you're going to do to prevent external parasites from attaching to your dogs. I'm not a big fan of the Lyme vaccine because it's a highly adjuvanted vaccine and there have been substantial reactions. So I'm a much bigger fan of not vaccinating for Lyme and instead making common sense decisions like doing flea and tick checks, and most importantly, instead of doing a traditional heartworm test every spring, I'm going to strongly encourage everyone in a tick endemic area to do either a 4DX test that's run through IDEXX or an Acuplex check, which is done through IDEXX. Those are the two big national labs. Those two blood tests, yes, they check heartworm, but they also check for exposure to tick-borne diseases. And I cannot stress this enough. I believe that tick-borne diseases are epidemic in North America, and I mean that with no exaggeration, epidemic. I think the reason that a lot of vets aren't talking about it is, to be honest, they're not checking. I am a girl who checks, and the reason I started checking is very selfish. In 2011, when I was on 40 acres and deep in the woods, and my dogs are vibrantly healthy, but they had a lot of ticks. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make sure that they had no symptoms, totally healthy. I'm just going to run a 4DX and see. And all 5 of my dogs were positive. So I thought, if my dogs are positive, then probably other people's dogs are positive too. So I started suggesting to all of my clients that we just simply replace a traditional heartworm test for a 4DX. It's maybe an extra, I don't know, $10, well worth the cash. I have a video on the site, guys. I have a video about all these topics on the site. I have hundreds of videos about fleas, ticks, how to treat tick-borne diseases. All this stuff is covered in depth on the website. But I fell down when I saw the number of positive dogs that had been undiagnosed. And the cool thing, because I'm a proactive vet, I was able to completely eliminate any potential for Lyme disease to get a foothold in those dogs, because I identified it before they ever got sick. Before the dog even knew that he was sick, before he ever had a symptom, I had identified the dog had exposure. I had confirmed that it was infection versus exposure. Don't ever let a veterinarian give you antibiotics because your dog has just had exposure. I confirmed that 2 of my dogs were actually positive. The other 3, their immune systems did exactly what they were supposed to do and fight off that infection. 2 dogs were genuinely positive, and I was able to treat them with an all-natural protocol, and they seroconverted and they're fine. But I believe it's because of my proactive stance of identifying that early, probably, maybe not save their life, but certainly save them from a lifetime of arthritic pain and chronic Lyme disease, which I believe is something that we're headed towards because most veterinarians aren't proactive. That's my spiel on testing. Okay, so we're moving along to allergies, because at the same time that grass blooms, and dogs go outside and start walking through that beautiful, freshly growing grass, they tend to come in with red, swollen, very itchy, irritated paws. That's the beginning of seasonal allergies. So remember, guys, there's only 2 types of allergies. There are food allergies and there are environmental allergies. If your dog has itched all winter, when you were under 3 feet of snow and there was no grass, probably not ragweed, grass, pollen, and mold, probably food. Talk to your veterinarian about food. I have 3 dozen articles about how to identify and treat food allergies on the website. If you have a dog that this spring has gone outside and has come in after repeated exposure with red, swollen, itchy paws, the most common sense thing I can tell you to do is rinse your dog's paws off. Sounds dumb, sounds impractical, and sounds maybe free. It's free. It's very common sense. In fact, the Association of Dermatologists has suggested that irrigation therapy, which is that fancy medical term for rinsing your dog's paws off, irrigation therapy can remove over 50% of the allergen stuck on your dog's paws and therefore reduce 50% of the itch. Side effect free, it's free for you, there's no cost involved, and it can provide substantial relief without drugs. Do it. Makes total common sense. Likewise, if your dog is itchy from head to toe, if your dog has ragweed and grass and pollen allergies, which means his eyes are red and itchy, his ears are red and itchy, his armpits are red and itchy, he's red and itchy from head to toe, do irrigation therapy on his whole body. Lather him up from his collar down. You can take a washcloth to his face every day. You can put some colloidal silver on the washcloth to reduce yeast growth around his eyes and around his ears. Lather him up once a week and rinse him off. And by doing that, you are going to manually remove billions of allergens that are creating that seriously allergic itchy skin. Common sense. Veterinarians don't really ever recommend irrigation therapy because we can't sell it, and we just say, oh, give Benadryl, or usually just give a lot of steroids all summer. Those medications are not without side effects. So just as humans that have dust mite hypersensitivities, your dermatologist says, take a shower every day, rinse them off. Proactive veterinarians are going to say, if your dog is having a contact allergy reaction, then remove the contact allergens from the surface of his skin. Common sense. So I can't stress that enough. You can do that with a coffee can. You can do that with a paw plunger. At my house, I have a Rubbermaid sweater tub. Put the hose in it. You can put a splash of apple cider vinegar in the water. This is a great way to naturally disinfect those feet, kills off yeast, removes those allergens. If you think that your dog is licking and chewing enough that he's got a skin infection, you can use a splash of betadine. Betadine is povidone iodine. It's an all-natural organic iodine solution you can buy at any health food store. In most pharmacies, you add a glug of that into your water till it's about iced tea color. Awesome job of disinfecting, kills staph, strep, E. coli, kills off everything. Totally safe for the dog, and is a great way to disinfect his skin if he's got hot spots or irritants now where he's licked his paws to the point that he's created open sores. Great way to provide soothing, gentle relief all summer long. At my house, I parade the dogs through that foot bath before they come in. After they've gone pee, last time at night, they come through, they all disinfect their feet, because then all night I don't hear that where they just lay from about 8 o'clock till 12:30 and lick their paws. I'm out on that. So if you disinfect their paws, then there's nothing to lick. So I'm all about doing that, and it also provides them, when they go to bed, 10 hours of irritation-free, soothing relief that you will benefit from all evening, and your pets will too. Second thing I would tell you to do is, if you know your dogs or cats have seasonal allergies, if you know that come May you're dreading May 1st, guys, start a proactive protocol around April 1st. By you preemptively starting your dogs and cats on medicinal herbs, quercetin is a bioflavonoid, an all-natural plant extract that's a bioflavonoid. It's called nature's Benadryl. It does a super great job at helping to reduce histamine in the body. Start your dogs on it. Bromelain, which is pineapple enzyme. Bromelain is a natural anti-inflammatory, and quercetin and bromelain is a great 1-2 punch for providing seasonal allergy relief that's drug-free. And if you can start that before your dog has histamine wind-up, which means before they're red, before they're inflamed, before they're irritated, you've provided this tremendous relief. So when allergens bloom and they're in full season, your dog's immune response is slightly more balanced, which means there's a whole lot more relief and less symptoms coming than when you wait till he's inflamed and irritated. So if you know your dog is a seasonal reactor, start a protocol beforehand. I blended all of my top seasonal herbs into one product because I got sick and tired of recommending bromelain, quercetin, plant sterol. There you can do a bunch of great things together. If you want to blend vitamin C, bee pollen, you can do stinging nettle. One of my favorite herbs is cat's claw. Cat's claw is actually South America's most prescribed herb for allergies. I love cat's claw. You can put all of these things together and provide them to your pets before allergy season starts, which does a really nice job of providing comfort and a diminished response through the whole season. If you remember physiologically what an allergy is on the immune spectrum, balance is in the middle. Everything on this side is the underactive immune system. So over here we have cancer, where the immune system can't recognize abnormal cell growth. Here you have chronic infection. Allergic dogs and kitties are on this side of the immune spectrum. So they are on the overactive immunologic side. So way over here we have autoimmune disease, where the body attacks itself. That's complete immune confusion. But guys, right about here we have allergies. So the immune system is overreacting inappropriately to things that it shouldn't. So if you can preemptively start a proactive herbal protocol before allergy season gets started, you are going to dramatically reduce that allergy windup, and you're both going to have a better season. Now, of course, there are homeopathics and traditional Chinese herbals that I love, but remember, those two particular therapies, which actually can be incredibly beneficial, those are tailored specifically to your pet's symptoms. So not all allergies are cookie cutter. You can have a whole variety of symptoms. So don't discount other modalities of healing, but you do have to work with then someone who's trained at prescribing, or you yourself need to become competent in identifying those symptoms and then the right remedies to be able to unlock a functional healing response within your pets. The other thing you could do is consider doing some local honey. We know that local honey, I would recommend within 60 miles of where you live. So in essence, go to your local health food store or your local farmer's market. Doing about half of a teaspoon of local honey per 15 pounds of body weight is a really nice idea for helping to get, it's almost like a little vaccine. Those bees are carrying local allergens, and there's physiologic amounts of allergens within the honey that have been basically homeopathically diluted to the point that by you giving a small amount of those allergens in the form of honey helps your pet build up an immunologic response to local allergens. So that may be of benefit. That doesn't work instantly. You'll need to do it season after season, but it's something that you can certainly consider for providing long-term relief. The goal, remember, for seasonal allergies is to be consistently working on your pet's immune system this summer so that next summer is not as bad as this summer, and so that 2 years down the road, your pets may have a little itch May and June, but then they're done, whereas today they may be itchy March through September. So the goal is always to be looking ahead at what you can do to help the immune system reach more towards a homeostatic balance and not continue down the path of overreaction. But that takes thinking now, planning now, but also thinking later. So yes, pick a protocol today for your pet's allergic responses. If you are not working with an integrative veterinarian, that's some of the things that we talked about today, using the least toxic options to manage your pet's allergies. A lot of veterinarians, in fact, most veterinarians, were not trained in common sense, non-toxic options in vet school. Those of us that are integrative vets went through conventional vet school, and then we went on to get additional training, so we have some more tools in our tool belts. If you are frustrated with the fact that all your veterinarian tells you to do is steroids, I would encourage you to visit the website ahvma.org. Try and find the integrative vet by you, because it's not that we're opposed to using those drugs if needed to save your pet's life, it's that we start with the least toxic options first to try and work with your pet's body at fixing itself ultimately. Really, the goal of a healer is to unlock the healing potential within your animal's body. It's not the vets that are the magic, it's the veterinarian that knows enough on what to prescribe to be able to unlock a healing response that's already within your pet. So we're gonna take a few questions out. Oh, I didn't talk about diet. Silly me. That's the premise of health and healing. So both for fleas and ticks, guys, and for allergies, it's really important that you think about the food that you're feeding. There are anti-inflammatory diets and there are pro-inflammatory diets. If you are feeding any type of kibble, there is starch in kibble, and you're gonna say, Dr. Becker, you're always bash kibble. It's not that I'm bashing kibble. If you have a dog that doesn't have allergies and doesn't have diabetes, no cancer, and is thriving, you may not see any issues from feeding kibble. However, my practice is full. The animals I see are full of, I see sick animals, and they have all sorts of medical conditions that are exacerbated by starch. So my issue isn't so much dry food, guys. My issue is starch. Dogs and cats do not have a corn, wheat, rice, soy, potato. They don't have a requirement for complex carbohydrates. They have a fiber requirement, but they don't have a starch requirement. And starch breaks down into sugar, and sugar feeds yeast, and sugar feeds inflammatory processes within your pet's body. So what I will tell you, the common sense approach to allergies, guys, is to get your pets off of starch. I've got information on the website about how to calculate starch. Sadly, carbohydrates are not listed on your pet's food bag. Frustrating. Come on, AFCO, we're waiting. But they are intentionally leaving carbohydrate load off of the bag because they don't want to freak you out, because you will freak out when you calculate how much starch you're feeding. If you can transition your pet to a low starch diet below 10%, I promise you, that may not cure your pet's allergies, but I promise you, your pet will be better with a lower starch diet than a higher starch diet. So addressing food, feeding the best quality food you can afford to feed, especially if your pets are struggling with an allergic issue, is one of the most common sense, easy, simple things I would encourage you to do. So that's my pep talk on food. Okay, Stephanie asked, is the recipe only for fleas and ticks? Certainly you could have some other parasites, sandflies if you guys are in Florida. I was just in Florida and had a sandfly issue. External parasites in general, Stephanie, do not like neem oil and do not like catnip oil, and they do not like geranium oil. And so external parasites in general, it's kind of interesting what the research shows when it comes to why some of these oils work, especially, they studied it primarily with ticks. Ticks actually, when ticks are above in trees and they can sense carbon dioxide, so as mammals are walking down below, they can feel vibration and they can sense the CO2 levels. Ticks can sense carbon dioxide levels increasing, and they have receptors, so they know when to let go and drop on you and your pet because they can sense that you're approaching. Fleas also have chemoreceptors to be able to detect where their hosts are in the environment. And the cool thing about both apple cider vinegar and neem oil and catnip oil and eucalyptus oil and geranium oil, lemon oil and lemongrass oil, all of these oils have been proven to be very confusing to external parasites, which is kind of cool. In essence, by you spraying your dog or even spraying yourself, they smell delicious, spraying everyone in the family, not the face, what it does is it confuses the external parasite. So your pack becomes less delicious, and as you approach these parasites, they're not sure if you're going to be a good host or not, so they will wait and they'll jump on someone else passing by because you are not confusing them or their chemoreceptors. So in essence, I'm not quite sure what parasites you're asking about, Stephanie, but across the board, any cootie creepy outside, go for it, because it'll be confusing to chemoreception. Okay, Hala asks, should you dry the paws after foot soaks? Great question, Hala. Yes, you can pat them dry, but you don't rinse. It's a really great question. So when I walk my pack through, so let's just say you guys are in an efficiency apartment and there is no garage in your life and you certainly don't have room for a Rubbermaid tub. Cool. If you have a teacup poodle, fill your kitchen sink with this much water, splash of vinegar if you've got yeast, splash of betadine if you've got staph, pop your teacup right in there, sing happy birthday to you, sing to them, tell them how beautiful they are for 30 to 60 seconds, lift them out. I just lift them out onto an old towel and I just pat dry. You don't rinse the solution off, you just pat them dry. By you leaving a little bit of vinegar residue, believe it or not only does it continue to fight staph and yeast hours after, when your dog goes to habitually lay down at night, and all you guys know what I'm talking about, you sit down to work on the computer or to take an hour out to watch TV, your dog lays down, and what do dogs do? First they rest, and then they watch you, and if you're not going to engage with them, they're like, well, I'll just start licking my paws. Totally annoying, right? That sound, just licking. Apple cider vinegar will be your best friend because it provides, first of all, it removes all of that staph, so there's nothing irritating to lick, but then it provides just enough disinfecting that your dog will smell it and be like, you know what? There's nothing really to disinfect. I'm just going to leave my paws alone. So don't rinse those beneficial residual constituents off of your pet's paws. Just pat them dry. Great question. Omar asks, how about Dr. Mercola's honey for a puppy too? Yes, of course, great idea. Totally fine. It's never too young to start this. Now guys, common sense, you're not going to go hog wild crazy with honey. A half a teaspoon for 15 pounds, scale down. So a quarter teaspoon for 7 pounds. If you give your dog 2.5 cups of honey, will they become hyperglycemic? Yeah, and we don't want that. So a little bit goes a long way, but great question, Omer. Of course, you can utilize that. And Tony says, what about food allergies in cats? Okay, well, this particular seminar, I'm just going to touch on it briefly, guys, because food allergies, we'll touch on that this fall. This particular topic was about seasonal allergies, but Tony, to answer your question, because there are only 2 types of symptoms, there are food allergies and environmental allergies. If your kitty has irritation, so if she's licking excessively, over grooming, but there are very diversified symptoms that are not traditional. So kitties that have food allergies can have IBD-like symptoms, vomiting particularly, diarrhea, constipation, chronic hairballs, coughing. So GI symptoms are incredibly common for kitties that have food allergies, but also like chronic eye discharge. So very diffuse symptoms. If you have a kitty that has a consistent symptom, particularly skin and coat symptoms or GI symptoms, you need to be thinking about entertaining the idea that she could have a reaction to some component of her food. Now, those of you that have read my articles on the site, I talk about this over and over and over. There are lots of different things your kitty could be reacting to, and there's a lot of different, I've got great common sense approaches, but in a nutshell, if you're impatient like I am and you just want to know if it's a protein source, like chicken, seafood, a simple, easy, quick test you can do is a saliva test done by Dr. Dodds. It's nutriscan.org is the website. It's a quick saliva test. You submit it yourself, and it'll tell you the foods that you should avoid for your kitty and the foods that are safe. Okay, guys, thank you for joining me. Oh my gosh, 40 minutes together. I appreciate you taking 40 minutes out of your day to spend with me. I hope we've covered some great topics. Look forward to Facebook Live next month. And submit your topics here. If there's something next month that you want me to talk about, just include it in the comments and we'll do it. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me. Bye.